Hello, my name is Danielle Scarmelino and I work for New Visions for Public Schools as a part of the New Visions CloudLab. The New Visions CloudLab is an approach to problem solving that leverages systems thinking and design to support educators in identifying how effort, communication, and information can be better organized for the work of schools. Our approach focuses on the use of free cloud-based technologies to strengthen work processes within our network of 76 New York City public high schools. To that end, New Visions has made a significant investment in supporting the rollout of Google Apps for Education across our network. This work has entailed each of our schools establishing their own Google Apps domains and provisioning Google Apps accounts to staff and in some cases to students. A key point of confusion for many individuals new to Google Apps is the relationship between a Google Apps account and a commercial Google account. Although both accounts allow you access to several of the same Google products, they are different types of accounts. A commercial Google account is a unified sign-in system that provides you access to a variety of free consumer products administered by Google, such as Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Sites. A Google Apps account provides access to the same products powered by Google, but administered by your organization. This means that from the Google Apps admin console, your domain administrator, who is normally the IT administrator at your school, can create user accounts and control account privileges, including which Google products to turn on for which users. This means that the account ultimately belongs to the school or organization, not to the employee. Another key difference between the two types of accounts is that Google Apps accounts are branded with a domain name, so your school provisioned Google Apps account ends in something like @yourschool.org, while your personal Google account ends in @gmail.com. It is also important to note here that commercial Google accounts can also be linked to any non-gmail.com email address, like msn.com, yahoo.com, hotmail.com, or even a schools.nyc.gov address. When these email addresses are linked to Google, the user gains access to commercial Google products like Google Drive using their non-Google email address. But perhaps the most important difference from a security perspective is that unlike commercial Google accounts, the terms of service for Google Apps clearly establishes Google's role in complying with its obligations to protect student data under federal law. This language does not exist in the terms of service of commercial Google accounts, and is why we discourage their use for school-related business. If used responsibly, Google Apps can be a completely secure environment for student data, but it requires that users understand some basic do's and don'ts around document sharing so that only the right people are granted access, which brings us to the problem of practice for this video. How can educators leverage the transformative power of Google Apps while ensuring the protection of sensitive student information? What are educators' responsibilities for safeguarding student data in the context of Google Apps? And what are the guiding principles around document sharing that educators should know and follow? First, let us begin by exploring the legal framework that surrounds the protection of student data. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, is the central federal law that protects the privacy of student educational records. It stipulates that parents or eligible students have the right to review the student's educational records, and that generally educators are obligated not to disclose student records to parties not directly involved in supporting the education of the child. Some examples of protected student records include student grades, report card comments, attendance and discipline records, and IEPs that contain personally identifiable information. This is information making the student easily traceable: the student's name, the name of parents or family members, a social security number, or a student ID number. So the question is, how can educators share Google documents in a way that is FERPA compliant? To answer that question, let's take a closer look at how document sharing works. When you create a Google document or upload a document to Google Drive, you become the owner of that document. To modify the sharing settings on the document, you have several options. First, you can explicitly invite people to be shared on the document. These can be individuals within or outside your Google Apps domain, as long as they have a Google account. You can also modify the visibility options of the document, which allows you to make the document accessible to many people at once, both inside and outside your organization. A key setting to be aware of is that by default, anyone you add as an editor will have the ability to add additional collaborators and to modify the visibility settings of the document. This means that if I share a document with my colleague Jesse, and I make him an editor, he has the ability to make the document public to the web without me being notified. You can change that setting, but it is an additional step. As you can see in this environment, users have incredible flexibility in determining how documents with student data are shared, and there is currently no way to modify or constrict these sharing options by user type, meaning your domain administrator can't say, for example, turn off the ability for students to make a document public on the web, but not for staff. Domain administrators can limit the visibility options for all users, but there may be many cases where staff need to publish content to the web, and that's a completely valid and important piece of functionality. Our recommendation is to take a moderate approach, leaving these options open for all users, while putting strong protocols in place to monitor exposure. Let's take a look at some visuals now to help bring these concepts to life. First, let's focus on documents that are shared internally. Let's imagine this circle represents all the documents and files that exist on your school's or organization's domain. Some of those documents are private. These are the least concerning from a FERPA perspective. Another portion of the documents are shared just among staff. The concerns associated with these documents increase with the number of collaborators on the document. The more collaborators, the more potential for human error. If your school has distributed Google Apps accounts to students, some of the documents on your domain are shared among students or between staff and students. These documents become concerning if student data is inadvertently shared with the wrong student. Another portion of documents are accessible to the entire domain. These are documents set visible to anyone on the domain or anyone on the domain with the link. If student accounts are in use, these documents are significantly concerning because they will be accessible to all students. Looking now at documents shared externally, these shares generally fall into three categories. In the first category, we see documents that are shared with other Google Apps users. If you are a New Visions school, this includes all the documents you have shared with New Visions staff, because we also have the Google Apps for EDU domain at newvisions.org. This category could also include documents you have shared with other partner organizations or contractors who also use Google Apps. From a New Visions perspective, this is the preferred way to share student data. In the second category, we see documents that are shared with commercial@gmail.com accounts or other email accounts that have been linked to a commercial Google account. Now, this is okay for documents that do not contain student data. But as mentioned earlier, commercial email accounts do not include FERPA provisions in their terms of service, which is why we strongly discourage their use for school-related business. In the last category, we see documents that are set public on the web or anyone with the link. This is the least secure type of exposure. Public on the web makes a document indexable by search engine crawlers, which means that students who Google search their own names are very likely to find information that you have made public on the web, even after you have taken it down. Documents with student data should never have these visibility options selected. So now let's take a moment to review what we've just covered. As a guiding principle, New Visions recommends that documents with student data only be shared with individuals who have Google Apps accounts and a legitimate purpose for accessing your students' data, like newvisions.org. New Visions also strongly discourages the sharing of student data with gmail.com accounts or other non-Google Apps email accounts, even if the owners of those accounts are directly involved in supporting the student's education and have a legitimate purpose for accessing students' data. Additionally, documents with student data should never be made public on the web or accessible to anyone with the link. These are public exposures of student data and are in violation of FERPA. If student accounts are in use, documents with student data should also never be made accessible to anyone on the domain or anyone on the domain with the link. In this scenario, your domain administrator should utilize domain groups to make it easy for users to share documents with many people at once. Domain groups create single email addresses for many user accounts, like, for example, staff@yourdomain.org or ELA teachers@yourdomain.org. These groups can be used as email distribution lists and for bulk document sharing. For those of you who work with community-based organizations or other partner organizations who do not have Google Apps, you may be wondering how to share student data with them in a way that is FERPA compliant. Our recommendation would be to create user accounts for those individuals on your domain. This way, your partners will be able to access the information shared with them without you having to expose the information outside your domain or through email. Generally, email is not considered to be a secure medium for the exchange of protected student information. We also recommend looking into a third-party software product called CloudLock to help you strategically manage user behavior on your Google Apps domain. At New Visions, we've purchased CloudLock for our own domain and for each of our schools, because it gives school leaders the ability to peer into Google Drive and sites to audit sharing, and to set policies that automate the reversal of sharing when a violation is detected. If you are interested in learning more from New Visions about how to implement CloudLock, please check out the CloudLock Policy Engine video on our website, cloudlab.newvisions.org. If you are a New Visions staff member or work in a New Visions school, you may have already received policy notification emails from CloudLock like the one shown here. Do not ignore these emails. You are likely receiving the email because your document sharing practices are out of compliance with the guiding principles outlined in this video. Please read the email carefully and take measures to correct the error. I hope that this video has helped to clarify the key guiding principles for sharing Google Documents with student data. To learn more about the New Visions Cloud Lab, please visit our website, cloudlab.newvisions.org, or check out the app script for education builders and users and New Visions Cloud Lab communities in Google+. Thank you for watching.